Yes, this is the conversation we have every Monday where we talk about things that you think Melbourne needs, and we do want to hear your ideas. So if you've got something that you think we should be talking about, just send me an email, melbournedrive@abc.net.au. Today, Melbourne needs to develop Fishermans Bend. I know you know Fishermans Bend. It's been making headlines for years, most notably when it was rezoned under the then Liberal Planning Minister Matthew Guy. That was back in 2013. Here's Matthew Guy unveiling his vision for Fishermans Bend in this ABC News story.
A style of development that is similar in many ways to the CBD through either a laneway culture and, of course, bringing Collins Street to the bay.
The local councils are on board.
It would create a place for families and children, for young people and old, for everyone to enjoy.
The opposition isn't buying it.
This is going to be a complete disaster. 80,000 people in an area with no trams, no buses, no trains.
There you go. That's a bit of a mixed view. If you think about that, 80,000 people with no trams, no buses, no trains. I'm not quite sure how much has changed, really, because there were big plans, but it does seem that they are still big plans. In June this year, the Auditor-General revealed major delays with the whole precinct. And just a couple of weeks ago, you might remember the University of Melbourne announced they'd pause their role in developing the area. So, what should we do with Fishermans Bend? Give me your ideas. Do you think the government should fast-track housing, build a major attraction there, maybe make it a hub? A bit of public transport would probably help. Maybe it needs a name change. 1300 222 774. Guy Naselli is president of the Fishermans Bend Business Forum, managing director of NSL Property Group. Guy, hello.
Good afternoon. Hi, Ellie.
So tell me, what is at Fishermans Bend right now?
Yeah, good question. So there's a variety of different assets and precincts within the area. So there's an area that's dedicated to high-rise housing and apartments. There's an area that was traditionally working class that is still full of warehouse and industrial estate, and that's certainly there. But what we are seeing is a change where we're seeing a lot of mixed use developments, some schools popping up. So certainly the area is changing, but it was interesting to hear back some of the recordings from 2013.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you go back, 80,000 people. First of all, there's not 80,000 people, is there?
There is not.
No. In an area with, at this point, no trams, no buses, no trains. Still no trams?
That is correct.
Still no trains?
That is correct.
It's a couple of buses?
Yeah, a couple of extra, but certainly not nowhere near enough.
No. So that sort of, when we've talked about this before, that's sort of the starting point, isn't it? You've got to be able to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, it's a fundamental of any infrastructure and precinct that needs to evolve. The old saying, quoting Kevin Costner from the 1988 movie, "Build it and they will come."
Yes. Do you believe that?
Absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely. We know of lots of stakeholders, investors, developers in the area that say, "Listen, Guy, we're ready to push the button on a development, but we're not going to do it unless we can get the people there." So
you're saying there are people ready to build, but until they get a good public transport plan, a proper plan, funded plan, they're not going to do it.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of promises and well-meaning wishes, but certainly these people need to be able to commute out of the CBD into Port Melbourne and some of the surrounding areas. So at its core, that's the big ticket item.
Melbourne needs to develop Fishermans Bend. Tell me what you think and what you think should be done at Fishermans Bend. 1300 222 774. There are people who live there now, isn't there? There'd be a few thousand, I think.
Absolutely, yes. So certainly we've seen some high-rise that has been developed in recent times, especially along Normanby Road and some of these other precincts in Plummer Street. But again, nowhere near the amount that they were hoping to get down there.
Julian's in Blackburn. Julian, what do you think we should do?
Yeah, look, I think the government over successive governments have lost the opportunity to build a bridge across for tram connection because they've given away the rights to the property developers on both sides, north and south sides of the river. So there's no opportunity to get a bridge across the river. So
you reckon that would have been the answer?
It would have been the answer in the shorter term. I mean, Melbourne Metro 2 would have been great, but I'm sorry that there's just no money for that at the moment. But if they'd actually jumped on and put a bridge across, because both developers are building towers across the best site.
Yeah, look, interesting point, Julian. Guy, is that right? Is that sort of would have been a possible way of getting better transport links?
Yeah, certainly that's a big part of it. So for many years the discussion's been where is this tram coming from or coming out of the city. So you're right, there's been a couple of routes that have been muted, but again it comes back to funding, like the previous caller said. The discussion about whether it goes over the Montague precinct, which is that South Bank precinct, or whether it does a loop along Plummer Street straight down Turner Street, it's always been discussed. But again, I think with some strategic planning and proper resources, I think where it comes from is important, but it's got to get there somehow.
1300 222 774 is the number. Tell me what you think Melbourne needs. I'm always confused, Guy, about Fisherman's Bend, because if you look at it on a map, it's so close to the city. Like, it really should be a thriving, well-populated part of Melbourne. I mean, we're not talking about something that is miles away. I would have thought that it would be an absolute priority. What is it that has made it such a, like 2013, these plans, and we're now 2025, 12 years on, little progress?
Yeah, spot on. So, I mean, it comes down to a number of factors, but you're right, there's no... we often say there's no precinct or area 2 kilometres from any world-class city that is so underdeveloped and under-resourced. To answer your question, what does it come down to? Look, we isolate or identify three main factors. Obviously, the costs on the back of COVID, everything pretty much ground to a standstill, so that's the first one. Communication, which when I talk about communication, there's so many stakeholders. There's you've got the City of Melbourne that's involved, you've got City of Port Phillip, so unlike most other areas, it affects so many authorities, and so trying to juggle a big jigsaw of that size is always going to come with its challenges. But probably the last piece is probably the collaboration. I mean, the ability for some major stakeholder or some major authority to say, listen guys, this is what we're doing, this is the plan, let's make it happen. And I think when it boils down to it, there's so many different moving parts to it that that's what it requires.
I've got a couple of texts saying, Melbourne Uni's basically pulled out for financial reasons. But how big they had big plans to build a campus there. Without them, is that a sort of a nail in the coffin? Well,
it's it almost is, unfortunately. So the reality is, and on the back of the Vago report that highlighted some delays, we always suspected that it was going to trickle down to stakeholders like Melbourne University and some of the larger occupiers in the area. But for them to postpone, we believe, is going to be a major hurdle. Again, 80,000 new residents and all these people moving into the area need to get there somehow, and I think that missing link is the transport piece.
I've got this, chuck a Disney theme park down at Fisherman's Bend so we can say we got one before Sydney. I don't know, do we need something? Do we need a big attraction down there?
Yeah, look, I think that's a good start. At the moment, as Fisherman's Bend, the Fisherman's Bend Business Forum, we represent a lot of the major businesses in the area, and we see it day in, day out. A lot of businesses that want to be there, but they say, look, we need some really good people to be backing us to get down there. So
maybe move the Melbourne Star as another suggestion.
Again.
What about the name?
Yeah, interestingly, I think it derives itself from obviously its location. Ironically, there used to be an airport there that many people don't know about.
What, sort of like Essendon?
Yeah, almost like a domestic airport that used to run to and from that area. So I don't know.
How long ago was that?
I think it would be 1950s and 60s.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's some really old footage of that that can be sourced, but I'm not sure. Certainly... the idea of it being a research and development hub, I think, is great in principle, but again, it does need some big moving parts for it to all come together. But
is Fisherman's Bend? We were discussing this in the office. I quite like the name; others don't. Is there something about it? Do you think that could you make it more attractive by giving it another name, or is that not something that you've really thought about?
Oh, look, I think at its core, I think it works. I think it's got an element of, obviously the blue sea. I mean, people often ask, are there any fish? I've got to tell you, there's some good seafood restaurants down there, but nothing that I've seen come out of the bay or the water that I'm tempted to eat. But certainly, I think...
You wouldn't be the only one, would you?
No, certainly not. But I think... Again, it requires some strategic planning and really someone to roll the sleeves up and make it happen.
So do you think it is a priority at all for government? Like, what do you think needs to happen now?
Well, it needs to be. That's the short of it. We see, again, I mean, when I'm not doing this, I'm a commercial real estate agent that spends a lot of time in the area, and we get to hear firsthand from a lot of businesses that are weighing up, do I invest in Melbourne, do I invest in Sydney, Adelaide? And certainly it makes sense for them to be there. Again, 2 kilometres from the CBD. You certainly don't have the same challenges that the CBD has. There's some good parking, but the reality is that they need to made to be welcome in that area.
So would you like to see the priority a commercial priority or a residential priority?
It needs to be both. It needs to be both. So the residential certainly has its place. We've seen some amazing apartments going up, but I think it needs to be given some strategic thought about some of the businesses. We've got a brewery down there. We've got a world-class leading...
There used to be a motocross track, is that right?
You're spot on. Yeah.
Is that still running?
Absolutely. We have one of the world's best shooting clubs down there at the end of Todd Road. Yep. Okay,
that's not going to work with residential.
No, I know, but I'm saying the point is that there's still an argument for a lot of these businesses to coexist in a clever, strategic way.
So it needs to be high on the agenda, but is it? And how do you get it on the agenda of the government if it's not?
Well, some funding needs to be placed. That's what we're calling on the federal government to really empty its pockets along with the state government and make it a priority. It comes back to making this precinct work 2 kilometres from the CBD. It's untapped potential.
Quite a few texts here saying move the wheel. Maybe that's the answer. Move the wheel and they will come.
Yeah, that's right.
Guy, really good to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming in.
Terrific. Thanks, Ellie.
Guy Naselli there, President of the Fisherman's Bend Business Forum, Managing Director of NSL Property Group when he's not doing that.